And I will be taking you through this journey today. Wealth principle 47 is the law of hyperfocus. The 52 weeks to wealth. My name is Walter Morello. The law of hyperfocus is tied right into the wealth principle 46, which is the week before, which is the law of simplifying. So simplify your business and your life so that you can make more money. So once you've simplified, by the way, hands to camera, if you simplified last week, you got yourself at least an hour per day back. You were able to free up an hour. Excellent. Give yourselves a round of applause. It's not easy to simplify our lives. We think everything is important, but again, if everything is important, then nothing is important. So hyper focus is about picking the thing that's going to improve your life, move you forward. But in order to choose the right thing, the right task, the right opportunities, we've got to start looking at what we're looking for goals. To choose what you hyper focus on, you must know where you want to go. Hyper focus is a powerful tool. It's a resource only to be used when you want big results. Hands to the camera if you have big results that you're looking for in 2022. Next year, you'd like to see something big change. All right, then. The law of hyper focus may be for you. Let's dive into a story, though, because this is a complex process. Hyper focus is not to be played with lightly or chosen lightly what direction you go into. So I'm going to go with three fictional characters that represent the students that I've worked with in the mentorship. One is Pete. His name, Pete, has focused his whole life. He's been a very ambitious, but also very sporadic person. He kind of makes his decisions quickly. He runs into them fast and tends to bounce around a little bit in what he does, but he's very quick in figuring it out. Knows what he wants, gets it done quick. And he's friends with these two other gentlemen who are my other avatars. And Pete and the other two have been, they've known each other. They've been getting into real estate, been thinking about financial freedom. And one got into wholesaling, Pete got into wholesaling, and then Bob got into fix and flip. I chose Bob because Bob the builder, right? Doing the fix and flips, it made a lot of sense to me. And then the last one is Max. Max got into multifamily investing, got into rental properties, buy and hold. And they didn't just fall into this. They were all out one night, hanging out with each other, talking about their success, talking about their lives. And basically, they all realized they were working for somebody else. And they didn't want to do that anymore. They wanted freedom. Hands to camera if you've ever wanted financial freedom. You want to do what you want, when you want, with whoever you want. Just every day is a vacation, right? If you do what you love, every day is a vacation. You never need a vacation. So they decide that they're going to do this. They also decide that real estate seems to be the thing to do. So they all start Googling. They start putting in these keywords into their search engines. And what they discover is that there's a guru for each one of these different niches. The first was how to earn real estate. What was Googled by Pete. He says, how do I earn money without risk, right? How do I get a lot of cash fast without risk in real estate? He gets wholesaling. Of course, a wholesaling guru comes up. They've got a course that they can go down, and they start looking and they say, okay, put it on the side. And the next one is, how do I flip real estate? Because I think everybody who thinks of real estate when they first come into this, they're thinking, I got to flip real estate. They watch HGTV. That's obviously how the money's made. So he goes through the process. Of course, there's ads at the top. There's some sort of guru, has a master course. He gets to that paywall and he says, okay, like it's going to cost money. Let me think about this. And then the last one, Max, does the same exact thing, except he types in passive income, how to earn passive income through real estate investing. And now he comes up with somebody who's talking about buy and hold and the BRRRR strategy. And you can see there's another nice paywall as you get through. So every one of these websites gives this information, but doesn't quite tell them how to do it. Hands to camera if you've been on one of those websites before, if you know exactly what I'm talking about. You get there, you read, and they're like, okay, buy my course. Shit. Son of a bitch. It's all behind a paywall. Well, that's how these things work, right? They give you some information and then they put a paywall in front to decide to see if you're ready to jump in, if you want and you're willing to do the commitment and do the work and go all the way. So all three of them now have a paywall. They all are sitting there with three separate gurus. They've Googled three separate things. They have three separate personalities, but they all make a commitment. Why don't we all do it? Let's just, we've been avoiding paying courses our whole lives. We've been just trying to do things on our own, this whole Google searching and YouTubing, reading our own books. Why don't we just pay tonight? You pay yours, and I'll pay mine. And then what we'll do is a year from now, we'll see what the results are. Hence the camera, if you can realize it's much easier to have three different people do three different courses and then compare instead of one person trying to do one of each and not really be able to do it all very well. Yes. So these are some really smart friends. So they get into it. A year goes by. Now, Pete has gone deep into wholesaling. He's done a couple deals. He's getting really good at it. He's figured it out. He's built his systems. Bob has done the same thing. Bob has gotten into this fix and flip arena. He's actually done one flip. He did it with no money down because he just, borrowed the money from the seller, or he did a private money loan, and he gets through with hard money. So, burns and turns. He makes like 25 grand. Pete's also made 25 grand. He's done 5 contracts for all $5,000 each. Now we have Max comes in. He's also bought a property, but he did a fix and flip, not a fix and flip. He did a burst strategy. So he bought it, renovated it, put some tenants in. So he's renting them out. Then he's getting the refinance, which should be done in about a year. And he's telling them, look, they're asking, how much did you make? And he's saying, well, man, I make about, because he bought a 3-family, I make about $300 a month. They're all laughing. I say, okay, you know what? Good job. At least you bought something. That's good. You're in the game with us. And that's what the guru said, right? The guru said, yeah, you got to buy one of these, one per year. So they're having fun. They're living their lives. They're still working. They've got kids. They've got careers. They got responsibilities. A year goes by. They come back. They're having the conversation. Now, Pete is crushing it in wholesaling. He's made 50 grand. He's done 10 wholesale deals this year. In fact, he even wholesaled a few of those to his buddy Bob, the fix and flip guy. Bob has now done 2 flips this year. So he's now, instead of making the 25,000, he made 50,000. So him and Pete are right on par. They're earning some money. They look at Max now, who did actually buy a property from Pete, the wholesaler. But that property, again, was a rental property. And he bought a 6-unit this time instead of a 3-family. He bought slightly bigger. And his property portfolio now is bringing in $900 a month. So you do the math on this. It's not very sexy, right? He's under $12,000 a year from these 2 purchases he's done. And it's not looking so great, but he says, I'm sticking to what the guru says. This is how it works. It's a long-time strategy, tax benefits. It's going to be really good. It's going to be good. Now, another year goes by. We can see there's a theme here, right? It seems like everybody's increasing and they're sticking to their strategies. Now, Pete, again, wholesales. He does 20 deals this year. It's his best deal, best year yet. He tells the group, I'm going to quit my job. Max, I'm sorry, not Max yet. We're going to talk about Bob first. Bob fix and flip Bob. Fix and flip Bob did 4 flips. He bought some of them from Pete. So they're in this really nice partnership. They're making money together. They're doing deals together. And he's made 100,000 as well. He did 4 flips, 25,000 each. And they look at Bob, they look at Max, and Max says, great job, guys. You guys are crushing it. It's amazing. I bought another property this year. Thanks to Pete, I bought a 12-unit. So now I have these 9 units plus my 12-unit. So I'm sitting on a nice 21-unit portfolio that's pulling me in somewhere around, we'll say the $200 a door. So he's got now, 12 units? Anybody do the math in their head? How much he's pulling in? It's almost $3,000 a month.
21 times 200.
21 times 200. So $2,400 a month he's pulling in. So he's got a decent flow of income. It's not 100,000 like his buddies, but he's pulling in this, we'll say close to $48,000 a year. It's somewhere in that ballpark. Maybe 50,000 a year is what this is coming to. He's almost a year behind on income compared to his friends. But he is getting the tax benefits of owning real estate. He is getting the depreciation. His passive income is taxed at 15%, while his buddy's income is taxed at 30%. They're getting the income tax, and they're also getting the self-employment tax. After 3 years, things are not looking as sexy for Max. We agree. It seems like he's got to work his job a little bit longer. The other 2 have quit their jobs, right? They've quit their jobs. They're financially free, but they still got to keep doing their process. Max, on the other hand, goes another year working his job. Very boring strategy, this poor Max, but he's hyper-focused, right? They all are. They're crushing what they're doing. And he's committed to his guru, and he's committed to the strategy. He believes in this passive income, this financial freedom. So the 4th year, they get together. And this is the last year we're talking about, because everything happens in year 4. Year 4 is the money. Some people do it in 3, some people do it in 5, but year 4 typically is the big year. They come in, and Pete's upset. He said, man, I did, $200,000. I worked, I did 40 deals. But he's like, I'm tired. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm just burnt out, man. I'm stressed. Like, how do I quit this thing? Same thing with Bob. Bob comes in, he says the same thing. He's like, dude, I made, $200,000 this year. I did my 8 flips. We've been crushing it. We're absolutely, destroying the game. But I can't figure out how to get out. Like I can't replace myself. I'm trying to find somebody to replace me. It's so hard, like, to find that person. And Max has a conversation with him. Now he's done a big deal this year. He did one deal again, and Pete sent him the deal. It was too big for anything he had on his plate. But that's another deal that was, we'll say it was 20 units, right? It was a 20-unit swing, and he purchased it, seller financing, same strategies, very little money, or he maybe refinanced some of his other portfolio, but a very easy strategy for him. My buy and hold people, we recognize this is possible, right? After you got a couple under your belt, it's no big deal to come up with the money for these things. So he's now looking at cash flowing somewhere around, we'll say it's $200 a unit for his, let's say 40 units. Maybe he sold his 3-family to go and buy this bigger building. So he's sitting around 40 units, and that's pulling in $8 grand a month, right? Not something you shake a stick at. It's no $200,000 a year, but it's right around, he's getting close to that 100 grand passive income. So he's not paying a ton, but he is managing himself, right? And he is picking the deals from Pete, as Pete sent him deals. So he's somewhat involved in this project. And he looks at his buddies and says, well, I'm going to go to my guru and see how I retire. You guys go to your guru and see how you retire. We'll all see how we get out of this. So the guru for Pete tells him, you've got to build up more. You've got to go get more deals. And then you've got to hire the right people to replace yourself. And then once you replace yourself, then you got a business you could sell. Hence the camera, if you could sell a business if you're not involved in it. It's a true business if you're not involved. Okay, so he's got to build up a little bit more. He's got to, hire somebody to replace himself, and then he'd have a saleable business. Bob goes to his guru, says the same thing. Hey man, how do I retire? I want to get out of this. Like, I want to not have to do anymore. Same strategy. Well, you've got to get to that point where you're making a little bit more income. So you can't just do the flips you're doing now. You got to be able to pay somebody else to do the flips you're doing. So we got to stack on another 3 flips, because 3 flips, 25,000 is going to go to taxes, and the other 50 grand is going to go to the employee, the salary of the employee. So we increase your income, take on those 3 extra flips, and you'll be able to pay for somebody to cover the property, the building, the business for you. Now the Max goes to his coach, his guru, his mentor, and he says, okay, how do I retire? And he says, Max, well, congratulations, you got this far. What you're going to have to do is do a rent increase across your portfolio, and then bring in a property manager. If you do a rent increase across your entire portfolio, that's going to pay for, the property manager is going to come in and do the work for you. And then the property manager is going to do all the stuff that you've been doing. And if you want to keep increasing your income, you can just go buy another deal next year, or don't. It doesn't really matter at this point, depending on what your income strategy is. When you look at the taxes, these other 2 gentlemen have been getting taxed 30% minimum on their portfolio. When you look at the taxes of Max, he's been getting taxed 15%, because passive income is taxed at 15%. There's a very different scenario. So even though he may be earning less, he's taking home just as much as his buddies from doing 1 deal a year, 1 bigger deal per year. At first, it seemed slow. At first, it seemed like he wasn't making progress. But when he was able to retire, when he was able to quit, he was literally able to quit and still gain a rent increase every year. Say all he does is a 5% rent increase on his portfolio. 5%, which is, by the way, the cost of inflation. We are doing right now a 10% increase on our portfolio every year, because we're so far behind on inflation. But let's just say it's 10%. He's got 40 units. Say he never buys another unit again. We're talking about an extra $2,000 a month in extra income every single year. That's $24,000 of extra money for no extra work, because of inflation, because of our business. Our other 2 buddies are subject to the market, whereas the multifamily owner, the rental property owner, is not subject to the market. That's other than the market is going to go up over time, and he's going to have to raise his rents or her rents. Hence the camera, if you recognize how the story plays out for real estate investors. What you focus on in the beginning over 4 or 5 years is going to give you a massive difference in how you're able to retire. In the beginning, it is so sexy to look at the wholesaling, to look at the flipping, to look at the agency. They're like sexy businesses. I know Melissa's on the call. Melissa, how many times have you been told, or you can just nod if it's true, you've been told that you can sell your agency business at some point, right? They've told you that. Have you ever heard of anybody ever selling their agency business? Do you know anybody who's bought one?
Mhm.
One person? So if you think about it, there's 2 million real estate agents, licensed real estate agents in the country. How many agents would you say you know, Melissa? It's got to be over 100, right? 100, maybe 200.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah.
I have maybe 3,000 real estate agents in my friends list, and I don't know a single one who's ever sold their business. Melissa does know one
I know.
agent.
That's it. That's it.
Here's my point. It's not as, how about landlords? Melissa, if a landlord decides to sell their business tomorrow, is it feasible? Is it easy to find a buyer?
Absolutely.
Yeah. On
Yeah.
the market.
Yeah. Fine.
There's a market for it.
Yeah.
So we have liquidity. There's an industry that is not very liquid. Real estate is not a very liquid industry. And yet in the realm of these 3 different avenues, the liquidity is much higher on the landlord side. So if you ever want to distribute and get out of the business, you can get out of it just by selling your properties. With the other 2 avenues that everybody's telling you to get into, everybody says, jump into wholesaling, jump into flipping. If you start down those avenues, but you never make that transition over to buy and hold, you're stuck. 2 and 3 years go by and you've got nothing to talk about. Nothing has moved you forward. Even if that first property is hard to get, it's worth getting. And that's what wealth stacking is all about. It comes down to, what should I learn first? What you should learn first and hyper focus on is rental property. Learn it, understand it. If you're going to get creative, if you're going to try to make more money, do it in rental property. If you're going to wholesale a deal, if you're going to flip a deal, do it in rental property. Learn the tricks of the trade in the rental arena, so that as you're getting more experience, you're getting the asset that allows you to leg up every year. Who knows that you could do one deal multifamily? It'd be a super crazy, amazing deal if all you did was one, right? You could get seller financing if all you did was one. You could get private money. You could get partners. You could get these nice deals if all you focused on was one. But why is it everybody in this room is trying to do more than one deal a year, right? We can't help it. Like, it's just our nature as human beings. We're like, let's go do as many as I possibly can. I'm going to do one. I'm going to do another. I'm going to do another. They don't train us in school. They don't train us to do things the right way. And so you have to learn the 3 F words of real estate, the 3 F words of real estate. This is what you want to hyper focus on to be successful. And this is what our students do in the mentorship. The first F word is find. You must find a deal. You must find a deal. And obviously we go deep into real estate deal finding in the mentorship. It's like obvious. So hands to the camera if you're in the mentorship already. You're like, you know what we're talking about. So whatever your niche is, we go deep into it. We figure it out. We figure out what you're supposed to be doing, how to get the deals, what the best strategy is for you. And it's all personal, right? Like no market is going to be the same. Every market's going to be a little different. So we have to go niche with that individual. So once we find a deal, then we got to get the facts on the deal. So we fact the deal. Again, 4 F words. I think it's funny to do it this way. Me and my mentor were talking about this. Like, how do we word this out and make it our own streamlined brand to speed it up? And it's easy to remember. Find, fact, fund. Find, fact, fund. So you find the deal, and then you get the facts of the deal. These are the only facts you need in the beginning. There's 2 phases to fact finding. One is I need to know just enough to put an offer in, and then put an offer in. And then 2, once you've gotten an offer accepted, then you can go and get the due diligence piece. Did the building department condemn the building? Is there any tax liens, any other pieces that I should know about on this property? Maybe I get a home inspection, identify what the cost of renovations are. All that stuff comes after you've decided what the offer is. So you got to put the offer in first. There's no point in doing searches of information until we've got an accepted offer. Hands to camera if you understand that. There's too many people out there doing too much research with no money on the line, with no chance to even close a deal. So we don't ask for information until the deal is accepted. We want to put more offers in. That's what the fact piece is. What's this thing worth? Offer submitted. Then we go and find funds if we get an accepted offer. Only if we get an accepted offer. Now, funding can become in many different ways. I really try just to talk about the stuff that doesn't involve your own money, because if I taught you the stuff that just uses your own money, eventually you're going to run out of your own money. Hands to camera if you recognize that. Big investors, we know how this goes, right? As you can have 100,000 in the bank, you can have $1 million in the bank. One deal eats it all up. Well, what are you going to do the next deal? You got to go raise capital. You got to figure out how to get money. Like, so we can't rely on our own money as real estate investors. We have to constantly be leveling up our relationships, learning how to do the private money stuff, learning how to do seller financing, learning how to ask for subject to existing mortgages. That's why the mentorship is designed to teach strategies that only work for different size buildings. It's designed specifically for people who are looking to get to that next level, no matter what level you're at. And yes, syndication may become a piece, but I think people syndicate way too early in their careers. There's other elements. Like me and Ron still prefer not to syndicate because it's just easier to manage a smaller deal. And our net worth, I interviewed all the syndication guys, the biggest syndication guys across the country. I interviewed them on the Alchemist Nation podcast. So like, I know their situation. Me and Ron have a higher net worth than most of these guys. Even though it's just two people on the deals, that's what makes our net worth higher. It's only us on the deal. Does that make sense? So the framework is you can build your net worth and retire faster, simpler by taking down smaller buildings. In fact, Nick Allerud, like some of these guys who've done syndications, Eric Bowling, like these are friends of mine who now go back to this model. They've gone out, they were raising up all the different strategies, did syndication. They said, man, like, I don't ever want to do this again. I'm going to go back to those smaller multifamilies where I'm the only one who owns it. And it's going to allow me to retire a lot faster. There's a model and a time and a place. If you want 10,000 units, go syndicate, of course. But if you want $10,000 passive income or $20,000 passive income, you don't need to syndicate to get that. Does this make sense? So not to rant on any of my buddies out there and their strategies and what they're doing, but wealth stacking is the easier strategy. You can retire in 3 to 5 years if you buy the right size property the right way with the right financing, which we talk about in the mentorship. Now, I don't have Mike Shine on the call, but I bet you Dr. Terry Wager would have no problem talking about this week's book of the week, which is The One Thing by Gary Keller. Terry, have you read this book before?
I have read, not cover to cover. I focused on the idea of it, but I learned a long time ago that reading by index helps you to focus even more for exactly what you're looking for. But the overall idea of the one thing, we talk about it, Walter talks about it, I talk about it, Doreen talks about it, everybody that is a coach or mentor in this program talks about really focusing on the one thing, because we human beings are not able to multitask. Now, a lot of the popular psychology out there says multitasking is a thing, but really what we do is we task switch. And so what happens as we switch tasks, we also start to lose our ability to remember what we were doing, to focus deeply, and we have to refocus. And then our, I'm losing the word, our ability to keep going starts to dwindle as we go. And so the reality is task switching is what we do. We call it multitasking, and we start to become more and more inefficient as we do it. So pick one thing and do that really well. I like what Galter talks about with buy and hold. Now, the reality is with the buy and hold, you're going to end up doing other things with it when you don't like the deal. But if you get it under contract, now you have some choices. So the one thing, really, Gary Keller is talking about being very focused on doing one thing really well. That's how you become an expert in something. I believe they say something like 10,000 hours and you become an expert in that category. I like to say 10,000 hours and some mistakes, because we're going to make mistakes, and the mistakes actually help us learn. Doing it right all the time, we don't learn much.
Let's give Dr. Terry Wager a round of applause. It's true. The one thing is one of the major, I say, principles to the mentorship. So every Monday night in the mentorship for our first 8 weeks. So if you don't know how the mentorship works, if you're new to this, the mentorship goes in for a full year now. And we extended it so that it'd be more valuable, more intensive. But the first 8 weeks are like the jump start, right? Those first 8 weeks are pretty intense. So on Monday nights, we go through a process where we ask you what the one thing is, which comes right out of this book. What is the one thing such that by doing it, everything else is easier or unnecessary? So what is that one thing that you could do? And then once it's done, it would make other things easier, or like you wouldn't even have to do things anymore. What could that be? And for me, like this webinar is one of those things. I had people ask me a lot of the same questions. What strategy should I take? Should I wholesale? Should I be an agent? Should I be an investor? Should I buy and hold? And so I created a way to train and teach that method with this wealth principle, with the wealth principle 47, hyper focus. So this answers a lot of questions for me. So now this is recorded. I can put it out there anytime somebody asks me those questions. Hey, go watch this webinar. Hence the care, if that makes sense. It becomes an asset to save me on time and also move my mission forward. I'm on a mission to build 100 millionaires who are inspired to build 100 millionaires. So it's all about us putting it forward, going and learning, and each one of you who's listening right now, building your wealth, building your knowledge, building your experience, going out and taking some risks and learning how to do it for yourself so that you become more valuable, so that the next person who asks you, hey, how did you do it? You have answers, right? You can share those answers. So building your wealth this way with the thought of one day I'm going to teach people makes you build a little bit better. It makes you pay a little bit more attention to what is happening, and you learn faster and you'll earn faster. The more you learn, the more you earn. And that's true in real estate, the same as it is in any business. But Gary Keller wrote an amazing book, The One Thing, and I'll say that phrase one more time, just like I do every Monday night at the mentorship. It's what is the one thing such that by doing it, that everything else is easier or unnecessary. And the reason we do this on Monday nights is because every Monday in that first 8 weeks, I want you to have an asset built. I want you removing some sort of question in your life. I want you increasing some sort of speed in your life. I want you moving forward in a more progressive manner so that you never have to come back and do those things again. Imagine if you could eliminate things that were wasting your time. Imagine if you just eliminated one per week for 8 weeks. And we're talking about you saving like 30 minutes to an hour a day. One of those tasks per week. At the end of 8 weeks, you're talking about you've saved yourself an entire day, right? 8 weeks of this, you've literally gotten back an entire day a week. That's 52 days a year. You've extended your year, right? The year's 365 days. You just threw a whole extra 7th quarter of the year for yourself, 2 extra months, just from being very intentional with what you're doing, just by going and saying, what can I do to improve things in my life? What can I do to cut out time or space or inefficiencies? And it's the camera if you're catching this. It works in everything. We're talking about real estate because obviously we're very real estate focused. And again, it's the one thing. If I could teach one thing such that by teaching it, I would be able to build 100 millionaires faster and easier, what would that one thing be? And it was real estate. If I could teach how to buy and hold real estate with no money, with no credit, then I can more easily put people into that millionaire status. And if I put more people in the millionaire status who are moral, ethical, and legal with the desire to help more people, then I would slowly, but more progressively, help kill poverty over time. I'd eventually have it wiped out. Maybe it's decades away. Maybe it's not that far away. Imagine if I build 100 this year and just bear the math. You guys know I like math. I like anything that's, you can break it down into something simple. So it's 100 this year, 100 who are inspired to build 100, right? So maybe that's next year's 1,000. We're going to have 1,000 people at the summit. That's the goal for this year's summit. And that's why a lot of my sales team is on here, making sure they're building relationships, going out there and filling these rooms. So we're going to have 1,000 people at the summit. What if those 1,000 decide to build 100? Now we've got 10,000 people out there building 100. And then it stacks to 100,000, to 1 million, to 10 million, to 100 million. Before you know it, this mission has covered the planet. And we're not talking about a very long time, even if it took us 2 decades or 3 decades. Hands to the camera if you're catching this. Because it's not a lot of effort from one person. It's a spread out effort across a bunch of people, a community of people who are just learning it their own way, because maybe your way works different. You're in a different country, you're in a different city, you're in a different strategy. Well, you're going to be able to teach people in your area better than I could. Does that make sense? We're catching this. Awesome. Excellent. So I want to open it up to the coaches. I know it looks like we've really only got Dr. Terry Wager on here. So we're going to open it up to the coages, see what Terry's feedback is.